What's up, everyone? Daniel here. I'm the director of the UCLA History Geography Project, or the HGP as many in LA call us. You know, when the Safer at Home order was issued and schools began to shut down, we began to reach out to our partner districts and teachers that we currently work with or whom we've worked with in the past. What we quickly realized was that teachers and students were not equipped to teach remotely or learn remotely. And we've been documenting some of these experiences from educators with our COVID-19 history project, and I'll leave a link in the description if you want to contribute to that. Teachers are feeling overwhelmed, ill-equipped, exhausted, and also figuring out ways to connect with, to support, to teach, and bring joy to their students. And so what we wanted to do with this video is highlight some best practices for remote learning. So what you're about to watch is a compilation of sort of remote teaching tips from 5 teachers that work in LA and the San Gabriel Valley. I hope you enjoy.
My name is Miguel Covarrubias, and I am a teacher at Ramon C. Cortines School for Visual and Performing Arts in downtown Los Angeles. And today what I would like to do is talk a little bit about distance learning and what I've been doing with my students, and hopefully what I've been doing with my students can be helpful for you. So one of the things I think that is really important is to keep it simple. So I try to keep it simple with my students. Usually I upload a PDF file that has step-by-step directions. And these directions are very clear and to the point. Step 1, read a document. Step 2, watch this video clip, etc. Usually at the end of the steps, there is a prompt that they have to answer, usually in paragraph form, just to make sure I know that they understood what they were learning and researching that day. Something else that I found really useful is to continue to have them engage with each other despite not being together. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll give them a discussion question that they have to discuss with each other. And what they do is that they go ahead and give me a unified response, a partner response that they send to me. That's another way for them to be able to continue to work together despite not being together. Something else that's also been useful for me is to give them different options. So for example, recently we were learning about the Holocaust, and instead of having them do a writing assignment, I decided that they respond by either writing a poem or doing a drawing. And I think that was helpful because it doesn't always have to be the same thing. I try to give them different options, and that way to keep them engaged. So that's also important. So I think as we continue to sort of learn how to do this remote learning or distance learning, I think it's important to continue to share best practices with each other, and hopefully what I've been doing with my students is helpful for you.
Hi, my name is Emily Waldron. I'm a history and ethnic studies teacher at El Rancho High School in Pico Rivera, and just here to share some best practices with you that I have come to over the last, a little over a month of remote learning through some trial and error. I guess the first thing I wanted to share is what's been really meaningful and important to me to stay connected with my students is making sure I have a more personal connection with them about once a week. So posting weekly check-in questions in Google Classroom, just asking them how they're doing. And sometimes mixing it up with maybe like a for fun question, like a would you rather scenario or something like that. But I really want to show students that I care about them as a person and want to know how they're doing, and that I'm less worried about them just turning in work. I'm not just looking for compliance, but I'm actually here to support them as their teacher, and want to know if they're struggling, if someone in their family is sick, if someone in their family has left a job. I've gotten really good results in terms of students just seeming to be comfortable opening up and being vulnerable through these check-in questions and letting me know. And that way I know how to be, flexible with them and support them moving forward. I guess the next thing would be that in terms of lesson planning, I've been thinking small and working backwards. So each week thinking of, a measurable objective that I know I can complete in just a couple lessons or tasks, and then using technology to make those lessons meaningful, easy to access for students on a device, that it's really easy to navigate. I'm not giving them some, long article that's going to be hard to read on a phone or a laptop. I'm trying to use things like Pear Deck to make things interactive and engaging for students. So I'm really thinking about the environment that they're in and, how much time that they really have each week, because what I've been hearing from students is that they're feeling really overwhelmed and they're having a really hard time working from home. And so I want to make tasks measurable and find things that don't take them too long to achieve, so that they feel like they're really learning something each week and they feel like they can accomplish that easily each week. And the last thing would be just kind of bringing in a little bit of joy and face-to-face contact through kind of Zoom and Google Meet. So scheduling office hours. I've done kind of periodic Zoom Kahoot games where like my entire as many students that I can get from the class will log in and we'll do a Kahoot game. I've been using the website GimKit to do class competitions. And so trying to keep that community even as a class going and some face-to-face contact with students, and bringing in a little bit of joy that way with those websites.
Hello, my name is Ron Espiritu. I'm an ethnic studies teacher and Latinx Black studies teacher at Camino Nuevo Miramar High School. I'm also the coordinator of the Ethnic Studies for All program in Camino Nuevo schools, and I'm a regular collaborator with the UCLA History and Geography project. And today I was asked to share some advice on distance learning, and I was excited to share a few ideas. So, first of all, I wanted to say that collaborate. Let's build collaborative relationships with our own colleagues at our school, as well as people that we know across the city, and also virtually what's happening online. I was really inspired by Brian Shaw's COVID journal assignment, where it's asking students to create journals and basically be primary source documents for future generations that are going to look back on how did this pandemic and quarantine impact the communities that we serve and the specific students and their age groups and demographics. And so I just, put some variations to the assignment, for example, like encouraging students to find a meme, either create one or find one on their own that represents what their week was like or what their day was like, as a way to help them to answer some of the other journal questions in that assignment. Also, like saying like what's a song that represents some of your feelings or emotions, or understanding of what's happening in the country and the world in relation to the quarantine, is ways that I'm seeing students engage with that current assignment that I have students working on right now. Another thing that I wanted to share is to actually encourage teachers to talk about COVID and to be willing to find the articles and assignments that help students to grapple with the implications that the pandemic is currently having and will have on our society. One thing that COVID-19 is revealing is the inequalities in terms of how the pandemic is impacting people's health and well-being in Black and Brown communities and communities of color that experience high rates of poverty. And also, how it's impacting our communities economically as well, in terms of people losing jobs and people losing access to income, and what this will mean. Also, as we see racism and xenophobia, two concepts that are really connected to ethnic studies, how it's being played out against certain different ethnic and racial groups as well, are issues that I think our students, of course, keep it age appropriate, are ready, willing, and want to talk about and want to learn about as they figure out how to make sense of the quarantine and the pandemic. And so another piece of advice that I have is to encourage all of us educators to be patient and kind and supportive with our students, and in turn to also be patient and kind with ourselves. Let's try to keep the directions that we're giving to students as simple as possible and as easy to follow directions, so that students can still engage with complex texts and rigorous assignments that we're providing them, but in a way where the directions don't throw them out of the assignments and the activities. So let's keep it simple, and less is more. And I appreciate being willing to share some ideas, wishing everybody well, and just hoping that we can all work together in trying to provide the best instruction for our students. So, peace.
Hi, I'm Orozco. I'm a world history and cultural studies, ethnic studies teacher at Linwood Unified School District. One of the things that it's working in my class is trying to connect with the students aside from the content area, such as checking in on the students, making sure that the students are doing well. I've noticed that a lot of the students were feeling overwhelmed with the quarantine, and I decided to come up with a list of different self-care practices where they could go on and choose from. So each week I've been assigning self-care practices, and the students have to share the practice that they're doing with me and with each other. At the end, we're going to collect their self-care, such as maybe doing hairstyles, exercising, paintings, drawings, and we're going to create a zine with a collection of what they wrote, what they chose. That way we can go on and share them with, let's say, the rest of the students in our classrooms, with the school, with the community. Something else that is working out is that I've created different Google Slides presentations where the students have the ability to comment. Now, these Google Slides presentations have been more through the social justice and culturally relevant teaching, where it's focusing on, let's say, researching activist women that are trying to make positive changes in society. So in this particular case, the students worked in groups to research the activist women, and they worked together to, let's say, create a presentation. Maybe they chose to do a Google Slides presentation, or they chose to do a video, and then they taught the rest of the class about the activist women that they chose. Now, we have been having Zoom meetings. That way we can check on each other. That way we can share what they have learned. The last part of let's say that project was to create an art piece. The group still worked together to create an art piece. They chose whatever they wanted. They had the opportunity to decide to do, let's say, do a song, do a painting, do a drawing. It was completely their choice. And some of the groups have done amazing pieces of art, such as doing a drawing, doing a painting, and they explained what their art piece symbolized. One particular group decided to do a rap video. So it has been giving the students that space for them to do whatever they choose and to produce within their group. So that has been very effective within some of the students. Of course, some of the other students don't have the same, let's say, tech savvy expertise, so, or also the technology. So we also have to go on and keep that in mind, that it might be a struggle for some of them. But again, just giving them the opportunity and the space for them to decide on whatever works for them.
My name is Chris Lewis, and I am a teacher at Mountain View High School in El Monte. I am currently a teacher on special assignment coordinating our English learner program, and I also teach designated ELD. But for the last 10 years, I have primarily taught in the social science department, teaching AP US history. So one of the best practices that has been working for me is creating what's called a week at a glance. This kind of one-page overview allows me to organize my content in a much more seamless fashion, but it also lets students have a big picture plan for what I want them to accomplish during the week. So you'll see that in this week at a glance, most of the skills are focused on the 4 language domains, which is what we primarily do in ELD classes. All of the links are embedded so that students can access the resources that they need, and the links also take them to Google Classroom, where they can submit the assignment and so that I can give them feedback. If I were going to do this in a history social science class, what I might do is think of every week having a kind of guiding inquiry question so that I can then structure the different types of tasks that I want them to complete, all focused on that one inquiry question. So I might have a section for them to look at a visual media source, be it art or a political cartoon or even a video. Then I would also have them practice looking at a printed text, either primary source or a secondary source. And then I'd also want them to think about what kind of product can they create. So it could be a kind of writing, any kind of claim, evidence, reasoning paragraph, something more creative, a letter or a speech. And you could even add speaking to this list so that maybe you use a program that allows students to talk to you or to talk to each other about this inquiry question. So I hope you found this really simple idea of creating a big picture overview. It helps me stay organized, and it gives students one place to go so that they know what they're going to work on for the whole week. Thank you, and I hope you're doing well.
I hope you found that as inspiring and informative as I did. Perhaps you'll use some of these best practices in your remote teaching. If you do, please let us know how your students respond in the comments below. We're also interested to hear what you're doing and what's working for you. So again, feel free to add your tips for remote learning in the comments section. You know, the one thing that stands out to me with what we just heard is that these are the types of practices that are also effective for face-to-face learning. You know, connecting with students on a personal level, checking in with them with a genuine concern for their well-being, keeping lessons focused, and providing students different options to show what they've learned. You know, it seems to me that in a way, what's good practice in the classroom seems to also apply to remote learning environments. I hope you enjoyed this video. We're a really small team, but we're working hard to provide you all with the type of support that you've requested. Please visit our webpage for our HGP at home resources, such as our HyperDoc lessons and family photos project. We're going to continually be updating the website with more resources. Also, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. We're brand new, but we plan to post more videos like this. We're also going to be featuring talks from historians and ethnic studies educators that I know you're going to find really interesting and illuminating. So that's it for now. Be well, everyone.